The double pandemic of COVID-19 and the global protests to dismantle racism and police brutality have forced us all to rethink, redefine, and in some cases, reinvent our lives and livelihood.
I'm Darlene Jackson, and I'm excited to be the new board president of Collaboraction. My vision as a leader is to increase Collaboraction's impact on the culture of equity and inclusion in Chicago, and to use theater as a tool to build a new future for our city.
It's just a really important time in our country for us to all recognize that systemic racism impacts everyone.
Chicago, our city, is a big inspiration. I'm finding that my life's work is the stories of our city.
I think the one thing we certainly do have in common is that we're trying to introduce a narrative in a time where dialogue has really become next to impossible to have.
With our fists raised, not fighting, but promising the truth of that Constitution and that Declaration.
What's an apology if you keep your ideology, selfish psychology?
It's so easy to say, go get a citizenship, but it's so hard to actually get it.
How do you feel about the fact that your ancestors used to own my ancestors?
What?
Emmett Till, Trayvon Martin, Laquan McDonald, Sandra Bland, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd. I can't breathe.
My point is the fact that you're actually here. You're present in this conversation.
Yes.
And you're taking action.
We're signing off for the opening night of the 5th annual Peace Book. These pieces are now into the world. Let's enjoy them. Let's share them. Let's talk about what these artists have stirred up.
So we can bless you some more and send you out with a stronger back. Blackbird, black man, blackbird, black man.
Did you know about me? I didn't. Not completely.
I'm a dancing machine, and I'm an actor with Down syndrome, if that won't stop me.
This past April, precisely on April 18th, I was diagnosed with COVID and I had severe symptoms.
A whole lot of RIPs. This is Lawndale. Just when we all gonna see that we from Lawndale. Way we living just can't be, man. I look just like you when you look just like me.
Learn to shout on top of your lung. Make a scene. Be the troublemaker. Be the trouble.
You can actually feel each of us as we come together, belonging to one another in a house of belonging we call Collaboraction. Yes, here we are.
Yes, we are. Dr. Marcus, are we connected?
I think we are, my man.
I had to do a quick update of my studio look. Marcus's pre-show check-in was so amazing with the flowers and the lights from the fish tank. I had to get some candles and some how'd I do?
You look fantastic. I love your aura.
Hey, yours is your crown chakra. I'm Anthony Moseley. He, him, his. I'm Collaboraction's artistic director.
And I'm Dr. Marcus Robinson, Collaboration's executive director. Welcome.
Welcome to our 18th episode of Crucial Connections, and that's what we are. This is Collaboraction's hyper-local, thinking global, online virtual space exploring our connection to one another so we can dismantle oppression and lift each other up.
Yeah, Zoom guests can join us here live. Hello, everybody.
We got a lot of great people here. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, a lot of folk up in here. So Yep. Share your thoughts and questions, in the chat or in the question and answer in the chat so we can all see it. And sign up for a ticket in advance. So, and some other people can watch us on the live stream on Facebook and YouTube and all that stuff. And everyone, all of you can subscribe to the Together Network for only $5 a month. Thank you for your help.
That'll get you access to all our programming here on the Together Network in our library online. And this programming, our Collaborations Together Network, is made possible by the support of our angels, AV Chicago, the Mark and Jeannie Malnati Family Foundation, the Joseph and Bessie Feinberg Foundation, and all kinds of people just like you who have stepped up to support us. And you can make a one-time donation at collaboraction.org or sign up to be a monthly contributor, or let's partner.
In any way, in every way. We're looking for volunteers. We're looking for board members, the folks who can help us guide our company to the next level. But tonight's show will introduce the newest mixed media project from Collaboration called Family Tree Stories, and explore the power of sharing your ancestral narrative. Family Tree Story will begin by sharing 18 family narratives, allowing the viewer to examine the way our lives overlap and intersect. Now, we have 3 of our original Family Tree storytellers here tonight. We have Dana Nicole Anderson, CQ, and Sandra Delgado. Oh my goodness, on the show tonight. And they'll share their insights from sharing their stories. And we are delighted to be joined tonight by our special co-host to the show, who is an expert on family history. And now we're going to show a short video made in tandem with her book, Roseland, A Family History, and then welcome our special guest host, Rayshauna Gray.
I was born in 1986 on the south side of Chicago. My mother Sharon's a Chicagoan too, born in 1964, a few years into her parents' northern life. My grandma Pearlie was born in 1942 and grew up in a Mississippi Delta town founded by formerly enslaved people. My great-grandma Wyona was the first of us to be born in the 20th century and would be 11 when white women got the vote, 45 when segregation fell on paper, and 59 when Dr. King was shot. Her mother, Trudia, was born in 1887, just up the road in the town where W.C. Handy first heard the blues. Her mother, Lucinda, was born in 1862, 1 year into a war that colored the conscience and collective memory of a nation. Her mother, Martha, was born in 1820, part of the generation begging for that slouch toward justice, and would be 41 when it began. I've served as one of my family's historians since 2005, a role I inherited from my grandma Pearlie. After moving to Cambridge, I set out to learn more about my ancestors, to better understand the worlds they inherited, moved in, and eventually played a role in passing down. These days, I walk around Cambridge imagining them at the age I am now.
All right. I love it.
Yes, that was
Hello, Rayshauna.
Can we hear you?
Hey, folks.
Hey.
And they hear your voices.
Hi. Hello. It's so great to have you on this special program. We were looking for a family history guru, and we were pointed in your direction. Thank you for joining us. How are you? Hello. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your passion for the power of family narratives.
Sure thing. Hey, everybody out there in the ether. I'm Rayshauna Gray. I'm originally from Chicago. I've been living out here in Cambridge, Mass. for just over a decade now. I'm a public historian. I'm someone that creates a bunch of stuff. including frameworks. I'm someone that likes to dig. My day jobs, yes, plural, because I'm a good millennial. I have 97 jobs now. I work at, or I'm wrapping up a position at Harvard University's Opportunity Insights Lab, where we, research the nature and arc of intergenerational poverty and economic mobility in the States. And, I'm acquainted with a few historical societies, but at the heart of it, I believe in the power of stories to change our lives for the better. Briefly, I'll share one of my favorite images, one that's drawn from the Promethean myth about stolen fire, right? According to the myth, Prometheus steals fire, shares it with humanity. Oh no, the blasphemy. But as a result of that fire, as a result of that shared light and warmth, people could illuminate their paths, they could cook their food, they could warm themselves. And the key component of the Promethean fire story that I don't think gets enough play is the fact that, according to the mythology, before then, humankind could not heal. It took the gift of Promethean fire in order to heal themselves. And so, much like Promethean fire, I believe in the inherent worth of knowing one's cultural inheritance. I was once asked by a very fancy innovator at a fancy startup, and I'm sure they could code, but they asked me why history mattered or why it was important. And I was stunned because I had never been flat out asked by someone how it could possibly be advantageous to not know where you come from. And then I realized, as I've been working out here in New England, surrounded by very accomplished, very bankrolled folks, it becomes clear that it's impossible for a nation, a people, a culture to have a conscience if it doesn't have a memory. So yeah, I'm a historian. I'm a keeper of cultural memory.
Wow, we're so glad you're here with us tonight. Tell us a little bit about what are the kind of the things in your family's story that have become a bedrock for how you move and what your life goals and dreams are. And a little bit about your book and the process of learning about your family's history and turning it into a thing you're going to share. You shared with a lot of people.
Yes, indeed. The good stuff and the not so good stuff. Let's see. I'm in my mid-30s. I first participated in a family reunion in the mid-90s. I was a young nugget, and I was brought up in a multi-generational household with my maternal grandmother, who was one of about 15 children that was born in Mississippi in the early 1940s. And I bring this up because I was literally, as a result of my mother's stroke and aneurysm during her pregnancy with me, we lived with my maternal grandparents and aunts and uncles. And as a result of that, I got dollops of my history over the dinner table. I literally handled materials that had been expertly curated by people that were my ancestors, but also lay historians. I was literally raised in the same house where a lot of primary records for Mississippi and Illinois are housed, and I will eventually find a way to either donate copies or make sure that this information is digitized, because I feel like that's part of my moral imperative and my social responsibility. I moved to New England and I had a lot of questions I had to sit down with. What does history mean? Is there a distinction between history with a capital H and a lowercase h? To what degree is racism, white supremacy, patriarchy, all the isms and phobias, to what degree are they partially responsible for me being alienated from my history? Or to some degree, all of us alienated from our collective histories, especially the radical bits that engender empathy. I suppose at the heart of it, I was acutely aware of the roots of trauma in my family. And for any astrology nerds on the Zoom call, the Scorpio moon in me, I just can't leave it alone. I want to know the width of it, the breadth of it. I want to know the desperation. I will literally comb through, oh goodness, what is that called? An almanac to see the weather conditions for certain places. Because what the land experienced, what the earth experienced, earth, the ultimate witness, can tell you a lot about the conditions under which people were working and living and attempting to thrive. I knew for a fact that being born in 1986, I had been gifted a sacred trust as a cultural beneficiary, agent, and eventual ancestor. And this society that we've engineered on top of the natural world at every level, personal, familial, communal, state level, national, and now that we see this with this pandemic, we are tethered to one another. And whether COVID-19 is teaching us that story in 2019 through now, or the Spanish flu, was ripping around the world, decimating 100 million lives just over a century ago, it's in our best interest to act like we come from somewhere and to act like we're tethered to one another. Do people? Two questions. I just go on.
Yeah. We are. We're more than we are more than tethered. We are each other. And our stories are they prove that to us in many ways. And we have so you have to be. I have to warn you now. These three guests that are coming on are like three of our favorite folks. And they all excavate history through art, as you have done. And that's the amazing thing, is that we can go back and we can do a dig and say, you know what, this truth was never acknowledged or accepted, or it was out in front of everybody, but nobody saw it, and we're going to shine a light on it now through art so that it can have purpose and reason, and we can leverage it. And it's going to take all of us. We're all going to have to show up at the dig.
Absolutely, yes.
Marcus, what do you think?
Well, you said it all, both of you. I so appreciate you being here, Rayshauna, and bringing such soulfulness to what we're doing here. And so what we're going to talk about now is Collaboraction's next mixed media project, Family Tree Stories, rooted in the essence of what Rayshauna was sharing us, and conceived by and directed by our artistic director, Anthony Moseley, that will illuminate how systemic oppression has impacted our family narrative and how interconnected our stories really are. Family Tree Stories will feature a sortable video, sortable audio, text narratives of all the participating family tree storytellers. The project will launch at the website in mid-March with 18 original family tree stories. And eventually, the public, you, and everyone else will be able to upload your own story and add that to the ever-growing collection. We have three storytellers here tonight, joining us tonight. But first, let's roll this video to see what it's all about.
Hi, my name is Sandra Maria Delgado Gallo Molina Betancourt, and this is my family tree story.
Hi, my name is Priya Shah, and this is my family tree story.
Hey, I'm GQ, and this is my family tree story.
My name is Loretta Fighting Keeper Hawkins, and this is my family tree story.
My name is David Ansell, and this is my family tree story.
My name is Erica Hilton, and this is my family tree story.
My name is Sammy Ringo, and this is my family tree story.
So my dad was asked to introduce all the nurses to the pharmaceutical department, right? So he had to give a speech. My mom was sitting in the front row, and apparently she wouldn't take her eyes off him. And I mean, you know, that's his side of it. No, that's also her side of it. So he got nervous and he had a hard time speaking in front of all these nurses.
Pretty large amount of cousins I have. We've been featured on like the news. You know, people come and cover our family reunions when we used to have them every summer, because we had like, I want to say like 1,000 cousins. We had astronauts. Literally, there was an astronaut in my family. Somebody on Good Times was in my family. And all of this story would kind of circle around this bar, the Post-War Tavern. It was like a staple in Morristown, New Jersey. I have black and white photography somewhere of like well, we'd call it a logo now. A lot of stuff came through that bar. A lot of family, trouble, fun, food.
Yes. Hello, hello, hello.
All of that. Well,
Dana Anderson. Sandra Delgado.
Yes.
G to the Q. Is your video on? Yes.
We made it.
Okay, everyone, put your finger right in front of your camera. We're gonna touch fingers. Come on. Touch. Come on, Rayshauna. Touch fingers. Touch your fingers.
Hey, Mosey, I was pulling yours.
Is that what happened?
I mean, it smells over here. I don't know.
GQ.
I was gonna say, I felt all your energy and it felt really good.
That happened first. Then I pulled his finger.
GQ, Sandra, Dana, welcome, and meet Rayshauna, our special family historian.
Wow.
You're amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Suddenly I was like, oh, can I re-record my family tree story?
I know. I was like, I'm like the keeper of pictures. And she's like, yes, I'm the family historian over here in Cambridge.
No. She said she is the keeper of cultural memory.
That is amazing. I love that phrase.
I was like, what?
All right now.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do it. We got to.
Honestly, though.
Just like we all are, we bear these stories.
Let's take a moment to have each of you just check in, and you know, you each were gracious enough to share your family tree story with the world, and you're leading by example. It's not surprising that we chose you three amazing, courageous warriors of peace and love. Not only to be part of this project, but also come here and talk with us tonight. This might be the funnest lineup we have ever had on our 18th show. And in full disclosure, Sandra and I are married, and she's my best friend. And GQ and I are deeply in love. And
in full disclosure,
Dana and I haven't put it down since Prague in 2003.
The first year of your marriage, the summer you got married.
That's right. That's right. So, but you've shared your story. You've listened to Rayshauna. You've thought about joining us tonight. Tell us a little bit about, you know, what from your story is really keeping your fire warm. You know, what is something that is a part of you and your artwork. You're three amazing artists, and let's have Dana start off, if you would, Dana.
I knew you would do that. What is keeping my fire burning about this?
Well,
this experience
from your personal story, you shared an amazing story. Stuff I didn't know about your huge family reunions and your astronaut lineage and the bar in New Jersey and the way people thought about your grandfather, I think, or your great grandfather.
That's my grandfather.
What lifting those up and sharing them with the world, like what inspires you from your own family narrative that that you'd be willing to share with us?
It's funny, this is happening in tandem with me getting this onslaught of pictures from my auntie, who's my dad's sister, so that side of the family that you've never really heard that much about. And I think some of it is just in that family, that particular side is like my grandmother has like shrines to her grandchildren. Like I'm used to seeing pictures and newspaper clippings and videos, and she makes quilts of old family reunion t-shirts. So I'm used to preserving our family's history. So I think that you asking me to tell my story and share some of our family tree at the same time that I started getting all these pictures, it made me wake up to the fact that I don't talk about that side of my family because it's always kind of just been there, lifted up in front of my face, and my sister and I just know we're loved. And here, look at our first grade picture in the school bus frame, you know? And, you know, that is a blessing. A lot of families don't have that. I think that I'm really blessed to be able to sit and take time to talk to you about my family's rich history, what it means for me to be able to have access to these pictures that I'll share with y'all so you can add it to this project. I'm really inspired by just how blessed and how loved and supported I am. And that is not lost on me at all. That's the best part about this.
So, and Dana is a Collaboraction company member. She's a writer and director, actor, poet, dancer, singer, rapper, and she did another show with Collaboraction that Sandra was a part of developing called Soul in Suburbia, which was also really about family. And in a way, this is just a glimpse going further back into your family, but family is so much a part of your work, and it's just, thank you for sharing it. Sandra, you've taken personal family histories, and I was talking about excavating narratives. I was really borrowing that from your work in Levada, Madrid. Share with us a little bit about how you've used family narratives and what from your own narrative is guiding you.
I have to say, I feel like there's so much I don't know. And like hearing Rayshauna and Dana, you know, when I hear people who really have the stuff, you know, like Rayshauna, you're talking about like you were given actual like documents and stuff, like all this is bringing up the fact that there is so much that I don't know. And it really makes me sad. And I think, well, not think, I know that the reason that that the work that I do has been so highly driven by the family that I do know, that's a way of compensating somehow, you know, like not just compensating, but like trying to know myself better by creating work that examines the little history that I do know, like using that as an entry point into Rayshauna. I'm just gonna keep like riffing off of everything that you said, like when you said that history with an H, capital H, and the history with the small h. I don't know if this is what you meant, but the way I took it in was like that history with the small h of like my family and people like us, and specifically, not entirely, but I'm speaking specifically about the immigrant Latinx experience and how much was lost in my family's case when they came from Colombia to Chicago. And my mom has actually kindly asked numerous times to stop using our family as inspiration for my writing. But I can't help it. It's always going to be the way in, even when, and like the show I'm creating now, like there's nothing, it's not about my family at all, but the entry point was, and yeah, and always will be, I think.
When I think of the Q brothers, I think about family. When I think about families that take familyness very seriously, I think of the Q family. I've felt like a cousin for a long time now. But G, you're an artist who, like, family. I know family is so important to you. How does it play? And GQ is an amazing, creative, multi-hyphenate actor, writer, director, thinker, lover, poet, weirdo supreme. And where does your family story show up for you in your artwork? And as we're talking about this stuff right now, and the things Rayshauna shared, like, what's on your heart?
A few things. Thank you for all that. If you were going to order it, it would be lover, then weirdo, and then all the other things below it. But truly, you didn't even think about that, like, till you said it. Like, Q Brothers, like this company we've had for 20 years, right? It's based on even in title, based on family. And yet, if someone's like, how does family come through your artwork? Like, I would be like, I don't know. Like, oh, what have you been doing for 20 years? We translate Shakespeare into hip hop musicals. Like, I don't really think about my family when I do that. So, like, on that level, I'm like, well, of course there's family stories in Shakespeare. Everything comes down to relationships. Like, my mind would, easily be able to say all those things, but the company itself wouldn't exist if it weren't for my roots, my family, and my relationship with my brothers, and it's like, in a way, in a grand way, I don't even think about the specifics of the art tying back, because without it, the art wouldn't even exist. Like, I wouldn't be an artist if I didn't have the family that puts family first, ahead of everything, always. Like, and that was able to happen because of this miraculous joining of my father, who was born in India and raised in Pakistan, and grew up in a fundamentalist Muslim culture, and left when he was 18, and when he was 12, never felt like he was even part of that culture, and said since he was 12, he just didn't feel like he belonged there, really. And yet comes to Chicago, meets my mother, who's of German descent, and 5 generations deep on one of her parents' side in Chicago, and her father from a small town in southern Germany, who took my father in. I guess what I've been thinking about since laying down the story with you has been, because the times that we're in right now with the new civil rights movement, right, which is pretty much the old civil rights movement, and just again, and hoping that we're actually making progress. I've been really, I've been really struggling. So, having the idea that my parents in 1968 had just started dating, and it wasn't common for a white woman to be with a dark man. And to have her white parents take him in, and her 5 white military German brothers take him in, but mostly her parents, who were very strong Catholics in the most progressive sense of the word. And the stories that I've heard about them taking care of strangers and people showing up at their door being like, we got this letter from your distant uncle who said you could help us, and they just would help them, you know. It's like there's like so many stories of that, and what I'm grateful for in terms of you asking me to be a part of this project is to learn some of the things. You know, I've heard so many entertaining stories, and I could tell them, and I would tell them differently than my brothers. And I'm sure, as Rayshauna, you know this, all the facts would be totally friggin' messed up between everybody, right? And my mom and dad will still tell the same stories, and they'll still get in the same argument every time they get to this one point. And I'm like, do you not see that you do this every time? And like, we all now know 2 versions of the story, and there's probably 18 more of those, but like, it's fascinating, it's beautiful, it's awesome. But what I got to do because of this was, thankfully, while my parents are still alive, email them and say, hey, I need to know like dates I need to know I don't even know where your parents were born. Like, I don't even know, like, how do I not know that? Like, I kind of had ideas, and I could have like talked my way around sounding like I knew some shit, but I wanted to get it. So now I copied and pasted from their emails and created a Google Doc for my family that like now I'm going to add to, and I've been inspired. So like, it's a gift to be a part of this. And thank you for that. And I realized that my 10 minutes in my family tree story went by so fast, and I didn't get to tell the colorful stories in the way that I would like to tell them. I was so determined to like repeat dates and like, and where people came from and how many generations deep, and look down at my notes and make sure I was getting it properly. So it was like, as an artist, I did like the least artistic version of a story I've ever done in my life when talking about my family history, because I wanted to I felt the pressure of like getting it right, you know? And then before I knew it, I was out of time, because obviously I can talk. I just did it for 10 minutes here. So, yeah.
You're making up for it now. I mean, come on.
Shit.
Hey,
that's where I'm at.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
It's the miracle of it all, right? Is that you know, your parents had to meet and take each other's family and culture in, and Dana's parents had to meet, and Sandra's parents had to meet and come over to Chicago, and Rayshauna and Marcus and all of us to spend this screen time in this moment on February 18th together. It's just it's beyond a miracle. If you want to talk about our interconnectedness, how can it be more apparent than the fact that we even are here together? Yeah. Rayshauna, what do you want to reflect back to us as you hear these storytellers unpack their stories?
Well, this is the part where I always get super sensitive. What you just said, whenever I'm speaking in front of a group of folks, I always take a beat to just say out loud, y'all, so many circumstances, like you just said, Anthony, had to unfold, not only just to leave room for our existence, but to engineer the conditions for us to be here together. I think about, or I'm reminded of the beauty and I'll call it the beauty and the radical hope of diversity. And I do not mean a little stinking buzzword that's getting on everybody's nerve. It's good and on my nerves. And I've only been Black for 34 years, but it's squarely on my nerves. I bring this up because, you know, I'm from Roseland, grew up on 105th off of Halstead. That is a very Black community area. Everybody's grandparents are from the same counties in Mississippi. And when I chose a high school, I chose Senn High School over on Thorndale and Glenwood. So I had a long commute. I would be up and at 'em at 5-something, out the door by 6-something to get to school on time. And there was something about, you know, getting out to the bus stop, getting to 95th and the Red Line, riding the L, seeing the skyline greet me, that made me feel like I was part of something. And when you all were sharing your stories, or actually all of us that are here on the call, even the folks that I can't see, it reminds me of how we are, oh gosh, I can't remember which poet said it, but we are each other's harvest, right? Like I as a result of a really hellish commute, but I was able to pull it off when I was 14. As a result of that commute, I was exposed to language and culture and the vestiges of traditions that I would have otherwise not come into contact with. I believe that my cultural inheritance is broader than just African-American history, of course. It's, you know, every English word with, I know, Latin or Greek roots is part of my cultural inheritance too. And so is the power play that happens on the social stage that, you know, enabled that language to find its way to my mouth. I think about how, or I'm reminded of the gift that we give ourselves when we do this digging. And I'm not trying to upset nobody, but I heard a little quiver in your throat. And I was right there with you. And I'm sorry, Sandra or Sandra?
Sandra.
It's complicated. Sandra, that's Chicago. I'm Sandra, but I'm Sandra.
Well, I sound like Kanye West no matter what I say. So go ahead and say Sandra, when you were sharing about either the dearth of records and namely how you feel about the gaps, that's real. There's existential angst that is part of this process. There will be pockets of our, you know, individual and shared histories that will offer us shame. And when I think about, how do I say this? When I think about the gift of that high school and the gift of spaces like this, I'm reminded of the first time that I saw my name rendered in a different language. A buddy of mine at that same high school, it was sophomore year, she was scribbling on my notebook and I could not it just looked beautiful. Loops and dots and swirls, you know, an only child. So I'm like, what is she doing with my stuff? You know, because I get asked questions. I ain't got no siblings. One person should be drawing on my stuff and it's me. But anyway, can you tell that was 20 years ago? Anyway, but there was this really beautiful moment when I turned to my buddy and I asked her, so what are you drawing? And she said, it's your name. And I had never seen my name rendered in any letters or characters that weren't Roman. I wasn't familiar. And so the first time I saw my name in Urdu, somebody had to translate that for me. And for the first time in my life, I encountered someone else's language for my literal name, what my body and being respond to, right? And that's not a gift that I could have gotten, or that's a gift that I probably, it would have been a longer shot for me to get it at Julian or on 103rd, right? Or Harlan or Corliss. And that's a direct result of hyper-segregation, right? And redlining and social engineering that alienates all of us from the fullness of our individual lives and our shared humanity. Yeah, so that's what I think of after I listen to y'all share my family stories.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for all of that.
That Gwendolyn Brooks phrase is very dear to us. We are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude of bond. Rayshauna, we believe that sharing our family stories with one another in mass can be a small part of truth and racial healing in Chicago. I wonder what your perspective is in regards to what the city needs to do to be able to finally really come together around our history and restore each other and become something new together.
Well, let's see, at the risk of sounding Pollyanna, I'd like to open my answer by saying, even though I'm born and raised there, I have been paying taxes to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for the last 12 years. So I've got to admit that while home is always home, my answer is laced with the humility because I recognize it. I don't pay taxes there, and Chicago is half taxes and half potholes. Bless them. But how do I answer this? I think at the core of it for me, everything about genealogy, every institution of oppression, every interpersonal dynamic that decreases our quality of life. Sure, there are systems, there are cultural mores, but then there's just like the tender, everyday human to human stuff. And when I cut across class, when I cut across race, when I cut across a number of different facets of identity, while also the historian in me bears in mind all of these patterns and issues that have morphed over centuries, sometimes millennia, depending on what you're talking about. But I say all this to say that despair is palpable. I refuse to believe that in a society like this one, where we're talking to each other on the computer, but there are folks in homes and places that aren't insulated in Texas, right? Folks can't get clean drinking water in Michigan, right? We can't, how do I say this as succinctly as humanly possible? As somebody who's a policymaker, as someone who's worked on pay equity bills, anti-shackling, like it is, I feel like as a historian, it's incumbent upon me to infuse our legislation with humane treatment. Otherwise, we're just legislating cruelty. And I know I'm talking about very systemic things, but it's like plastics, it's like microplastics. It works its way into our water. It permeates every facet of our life, right? People feel a certain kind of way when they're paying both like financially and how do I say this, just like the everyday currency of life, just like the exhaustion. People are hustling to feed themselves, to maintain communities and families that are being, like mine, decimated by gun violence. And there's so many itinerant issues, right? Like mental health facilities being closed during a certain mayor's initial 6 months. I keep talking because I know if I how do I say this? I would be talking all day if I wanted to rattle off the litany of things we need to do collectively to heal ourselves. Right now, I'll admit, I am in a stage where I am just perpetually horrified by the zeal, right, the gusto with which we make excuses for brutalizing one another. And I suppose that a sound place to start would be for individual people to, this sounds so Pollyanna, but I truly believe that, of course, there's systemic poverty, but there's also despair, there's also sorrow, there's also a lack of resources. I truly believe that if I could wave a magic wand and give everyone a shred more empathy, right? And by extension, a shred more common sense, right? When we enrich our communities, right? We raise the standard for everybody's quality of life. I think that getting to a place where other people's woes are our business is a beautiful place to start. I'm reminded of growing up in a Christian church. Don't worry, I'm not preaching. I'm not about to do, don't worry. But I'm reminded of that definition of original sin that I was taught in the Kojic church during those 13-hour services. Anything that separates us from the love of God. I see you snapping, Marcus. I got a tambourine in the back and 2 wigs under my bed. But I'm reminded of that original sin definition because I just turned it on its head. You know, what if sin isn't vertical? What if it's horizontal? What if sin is anything that creates or maintains an inhumane chasm between me and another person? And if as a cis person, that's queer phobia, transphobia, that's sinful and I have work to do, right? It's, you know, me being somebody who's documented, who's a documented person who's also a descendant of enslaved folks, but I also have like an Emancipation Proclamation, 3 Reconstruction Amendments that afford me a certain positioning in society. And to that and to other people, I'm accountable. I just never liked the idea that everything that's planted in me has to take root in me. In social cruelty. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
We have a bunch of folks here in the Zoom. If anyone has a question or a comment, throw it in the chat. If you want to come up on video and join us and ask a question or tell a story about that time you met GQ at the Staples Center, or Sammy Rangel is in the house. If Sammy is camera ready, as he always is, we'd love to see Sammy. He's one of our storytellers. Sandra, Dana, G, in the meantime, please reflect off of Rayshauna's brilliance. Rayshana, you make me feel smart and dumb at the same time. It's like so.
That's a good way to put it. Really, tons of brilliance in there, tons of beautiful stuff, and I don't think you need to stop yourself from whatever's coming out your mouth, for sure. So, it's I'd like to piggyback on that a little bit and just say that I think one thing I want to say three things: reparations, reparations, and reparations. That's what we're so fucked right now. I'm so disillusioned by our entire system of government, both since we only have two sides. I can only really be mad at two of them. But I'm just I just laugh at it. I'm like, you know what? Just go away. All of you just go away. If we all stop paying attention to them, they just won't be able to govern anyone, and we'll all be better off for it. I don't even, like, sometimes I want to get into politics, and sometimes I just never want to think about them ever again, because I feel like what you're saying, empathy works. Reparations will work. That's like, it was talked about. It had a platform, and suddenly, like, no one said a word about it. In the media, Biden's team, nobody's talking a fucking word about it, and it's so wrong. It's the first. I know we have a pandemic to get through, but that don't use it as an excuse anymore for anything. Like, it's so wrong. It's so wrong.
Marcus, how did we got here somehow? How do we jump into a new parallel universe where we're not so uncivilized? And let's bring up Sammy Rangel, the executive director of Life After Hate. Yes, there he is. Mato Sapa. What's up, brother? Sammy's one of our family tree storytellers. He's a living metaphor for hope and change, and the possibility that the Chicago Bears might improve one day.
What up, Sammy?
What's up, Q? Good to see you.
Sammy, you've been listening along. What?
Hi, Sammy.
Hi, Sammy.
What's up, guys? What's up, everybody? Rayshana,
Welcome aboard.
Marcus.
Put your voice in the room, man. Let's hear some. Bring us some love, man. Share some wisdom.
I'm still stuck on if we could wave a magic wand and give everyone a shred of empathy.
Yes.
I mean, this whole organization that I'm leading right now is built on this principle that compassion and empathy can pull people out of these domestic terrorist groups, and we witness that every day. And the one thing, I mean, I just really want to back up what was being said here. So of all the co-founders who started this organization, all of us are what we call formers, ex-members of violent extremist groups in our past. And aside from myself, as you guys know, I'm an ex-gang member from the city, from the north side, Logan Square, Sin City, Berrien, California, back in the days. What we all had in common, the other co-founders were ex-white supremacists. What we all had in common was that moment that in many, for all of us, in the very worst time period of our lives, when we were most violent, most unapproachable, most unlovable, that it was somebody's compassion and or empathy that was being communicated to us that challenged our global narrative about how we viewed the world. And what I've learned about change is that really the precipitant for change is being introduced unto the unknown, right? We really don't learn until we're introduced unto something that we don't know, an experience we weren't prepared for. And, you know, when I'm listening to and feeling the hurt that the city brings onto you, right? When you're lost in that, you don't see kindness, you don't see humanity, you don't see others, you don't experience that. And in addition to not loving anyone, you don't feel lovable at all. And you're almost united by your tragedies and your trauma, right? Like we're really and I think the most traumatic experience that we all share and articulate is not being heard. You know, we didn't start off. I just read an article about this guy, man, who said he has committed atrocities, but he didn't choose to kill. And Sandra, you know, you helped me put my play at the Goodman Theater about my life. And one of the titles or one of the lines in my play was like, I don't think I was born to kill, right? But that sort of violence becomes the only language that you think will get you heard in a world where you feel unheard, you know? And so it was because of empathy I changed and the other co-founders changed, you know, and it didn't take a long time to get through. It was almost instantaneous when that seed was planted by the way that person interacted with us, you know? And for me, it was finally meeting someone who validated my pain. You know, I had been screaming my story in all kind of ways, ultimately through violence, until someone validated my story and was not interested in challenging my perspectives, but only in letting me know that he saw me. I mean, his first sentence to me was, "I can see that you're suffering." And I can tell you right now that no one in my life had ever acknowledged that. All they saw was the animal I became. All they saw was the violence I had committed. And you know, granted, I was not a good person at the time. But there are people, and I think I'm looking at a bunch of us right now who can see past the symptoms, see past the behavior, and look into the person and still recognize the humanity in each of us. And right now, my organization is still looking into these white supremacists who are part of these domestic terrorist groups, and we're touching them where their humanity intersects with ours. And we use that as a basis. We use empathy as the basis for that connecting moment. So I'm going to be peeling back the layers of just a shred of empathy, because man, can you imagine the wealth that is built into that and what it could bring to the world if we could actually make that happen? I'm going to be looking for that magic wand. I'm just saying that.
And what's so incredible is that whether it's in the post show, at Crime Scene, or at Peace Book, or at the Goodman, or in a big table with the Wu-Tang Foundation, when you talk, I know, I've been in the room. When you talk, everybody listens. And it's an incredible thing, and I hope people will listen to your family tree story as well as our other storytellers.
Yeah, I want to hitchhike.
You are heard, brother.
I want to hitchhike on that because you really are pointing at something. I want to answer your question that you raised some minutes back, Anthony. So the empathy and compassion, this is the gravitas, this is the gravity, this is the glue that brings us all together. So if it could bring you out of hatred and violence, just imagine what it could do with people who are standing at indifference and unfeeling. So as we talk about how we heal as a group of people, as a nation, so empathy and compassion will be at the heart of it, to say the least about it. And then I'm reminded of some words from one of Dr. Martin Luther King's favorites, compadres in his movement. He, a rabbi actually, Abraham Joshua Herschel. he would raise a question. He raised the question that you're raising, Anthony, and he would raise it and answer it at the same time. And he would say, to your question, something is actually asked of us. Something is asked of us that we're asked to wonder and to revere, to think and to live in a way that is compatible with the grandeur and mystery of living. And when I put that in the context of this conversation, and I think about what my sister Rayshauna has gifted us with her deep share, is that as we take stock of our narratives, of our history and our ancestry and the people who came before us, who paved the way so that we can be here. And then we do so with the family tree stories, and do so in a way that we can see how all of us are connected in some way. And that's that little thread that binds us all together. That little thread is our humanity. And when we hold on to that thread and connect heart to heart, that whole chakra energy kind of thing just kind of brings us all together and becomes the glue that's necessary to do the hard work of truth telling and reconciliation, so that we can have a chance to celebrate and heal in the way that Dana Anderson talks about, her 1,000 family reunion, where people just come together and just celebrate belonging. We here, we don't know everybody. We don't meet about 50 or 60 people we never met before. They are our family. And that is the truth about everybody we meet on this planet. At some level, further back we go, we all just family. And if we tell the story long enough and deep enough, Rayshauna, I think we might find each other. Full stop.
Well, we are. That's it for our show. I would love, Sammy, thanks for jumping on. Great to see you. Keep it going, man. Keep it up. You are heard, man. You are loud and clear over here. And Sandra and G, Dana, Rayshauna, I wonder if you could all just check out real quickly with maybe a short 20-second. What are you taking with you? What do you want to check out with before we jump back into the space-time reality we call life? Dana, go ahead.
I just listening and being with you all, I'm going to take away from this the idea of just continuing my quest to be more empathetic and compassionate, and to focus on my own healing so that I'm not an unhealed person walking around wielding the wrong narrative power about who I am or Black women or any of that. So we're all here as storytellers and telling stories about our family tree because it is important for us to shape our narrative power. And I just want us to all continue to do that. In this time, it is so important. So thank you for being with me.
And check out Dana's book she just released, a book of poetry she created during the quarantine.
Awesome.
And Dana, maybe you could put that in the chat, the website for that. I cannot wait to hear the music. GQ. He disappeared. Sandra, what's on your heart?
I was just so happy I just feel so wonderful to have shared space and time with you all. And it's the conversations like this that really do cultivate empathy and understanding. So I had a lovely time. Thank you.
Oh, what happened?
Sandra, what are you working on?
I am working on a new play, a musical called The Boys and the Nuns, and it is about, I'm into underknown Chicago histories, and this is about the fight for LGBTQ rights in 1980 Chicago, and how a group of Catholic sisters were a big part of getting a basic human rights ordinance passed for LGBTQ folks, while at the same time they were going through their own battle to get equal rights for women within the church.
Another one of Sandra Delgado's exploration of the decades of Chicago. She's done the 60s, now she's got the 80s. A historian by any right. Sandra, thank you so much. I'm glad we could share the internet in our home tonight, and neither of us got on the short end of the stick. Rayshauna, we know we're family now.
Yes, we are.
You're gonna have to hit us up when you come back to Chicago. And your perspective is really important because you have been away for a little bit, and you pay taxes in the Commonwealth. And I know I moved from Chicago to Connecticut when I was 14 years old. I know what kind of culture shock that can be. What's on your heart in 24 seconds or less?
Well, I can honestly say I will never underestimate compassion and empathy again, or I'll never hedge when I share that very authentic answer to a question. Because I refuse to believe this is the best we can do.
Yes, and you are correct. This is not the best we can do.
Y'all gonna have me crying on this computer.
Yeah, we are better. We are better than this. We're better than this, and we belong to each other. When something happens to one of us, it happens to all of us. When your heart breaks, my heart breaks. I mean, that's how this rolls. Anything other than that is an illusion. And thank you for sharing your heart with us tonight.
Oh my gosh, y'all about to walk to Illinois. My heart.
Come on, baby. It's cold now, but come on.
In the house too long.
Oh, wow. It looks like we come to the end of our time. And
thank you, Rayshauna.
This is the time I dread the most, but it's such sweet sorrow. And thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Well, Anthony, look at what we did, man. That's it. Thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight on Crucial Connections. We invite you to join us on Becoming Unlearning White Supremacy, our monthly workshop that happens on the first Tuesday of every month. It's free. It's open to all who seek to learn more and spend time with the whole idea of becoming active anti-racist. March the 2nd, we'll be exploring the way colorism impacts us all. So go to collaboration.org for more information and register today.
While you're there, learn more about the family tree stories. In mid-March, we'll be launching a new website where you'll be able to see all of the original storytellers, and eventually you'll be able to add your own to the mix, and it'll become a library of oral narratives of family tree history of 10 minutes or less. And we're going to be back on the third Thursday of every month. And in March, we're actually going to be exploring hatred toward the Asian community. And we're going to be digging into that really important issue right now. Delicia actually just brought it up in the chat. She's right on. And so be ready for, I believe, March 18th.
Yeah, we'll be bringing some compassion and empathy to that, and insight and courage, so that we can stand up and be counted in the press against that kind of activity. So thanks again to all of our guests and all of our sponsors. And if you want to see more programming like this, please consider a donation of any amount at collaboration.org. Become a monthly contributor for as little as $5 a month, and we'd love to get a whole bunch of these. So let's roll the credits and get up out of here.
That's right. That's our show. Thank you everyone for joining us on Crucial Connections. We are hyper local, thinking global. And if you think you know someone who might need your support right now, we're in the middle of a triple pandemic. Reach out and give somebody a call. And if they don't answer your call, find a way to show up in their life right now and let them know you care and you are there. We're going to run our call time PSA that we've created with some of our partners after the credits here to raise mental illness awareness and resources for Chicago theater workers. Marcus, thank you for our 18th Crucial Connections, and thank you to our team behind the curtain, Sarah Swift, Nikolai, we had Emmy and Crystal with us tonight, and GQ, we love you. We missed your closeout, but you said it perfectly. We are lovers first, weirdo second, everything else after that. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thanks, Anthony. It's such a great pleasure to be with you tonight.
Peace.
It's call time for theater workers who need support with mental wellness.
Half hour.
Thank you, half hour.
15. 15 to places.
Thank you, 15.
5.
Thank you, 5.
Places.
Thank you, places.
Hi, I'm calling about a friend who might be suffering from depression. I heard you had virtual support groups.
Hi, I'm calling to learn more about the financial support for therapy sessions. I've been thinking about starting therapy.
Hey friend, I've been thinking about you. How you doing?
These are difficult times. Theater workers are feeling the effects of losing their livelihood, effects like depression, anxiety, and mental illness. Join Call Time. Pick up the phone and call someone you care about. Or call the National Alliance on Mental Illness Chicago's free and confidential helpline, 833-626-4244. You'll find a listening ear and connections to mental health and community resources for yourself, advice on how to support friends or family, and the new NAMI Chicago virtual support group. And Season of Concern can help cover the costs of therapy sessions for Chicago theater artists through its Biscotto Miller Fund. Share these call time resources to aid theater workers and destigmatize depression, anxiety, and mental illness.